Jim Mitchell. We're back with another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast. Let's get right into it. This county chose an election denier, 9/11 truther, and QAnon conspiracist to run its elections. From Vice.com, that's by Whittling Dan. And I think, I personally wouldn't agree with any of those positions. Maybe, not really QAnon. Maybe they're probably the second one I'd agree with. 9/11 might have been an inside job. Election denier, I think you should be able to deny whatever election you want. So I think you should be able, I think this person, I think the government should be able to appoint whoever it wants to any position. And if people don't want to accept them, they shouldn't be forced to do so. So that's my thoughts there. Robert Kennedy Jr. on his uncle JFK and the military-industrial complex from Powerful GRA on YouTube, and I posted that. And yeah, I think it was very good how they were talking about the military-industrial complex. I disagree with Robert Kennedy Jr. on some stuff, but I do think the military-industrial complex, he's right on the money on it, and how his father, or his uncle, was kind of against it, and that's why they took him out. And yeah, so yeah, one comment by Zachinist says, "I don't want to hear anything either of these asses have to say, Skip." And I said, and they said, I only want to hear sources that confirm all my biases. I'm a Redditor. Let's Reddit for you. People only want to get circle jerked all the time with all the sources they agree with. I think, we need to, if you want to just be an echo chamber, we should be able to do so, but I think people should be exposed to other things as well. And that's why I think, we have to criticize these increasing censorship regime that we see popping up, which sadly is probably only get more prominent as time goes on. Just like the military-industrial complex. Trump classified documents case differs from Biden, Clinton, Pence issues. Here's how from NBCFW.com. I guess you could make the argument, yeah. I like this comment by Chad Muffin. Honestly, I think the man is too stupid to plan anything too nefarious, and the Espionage Act is just another political tool for our becoming banana republic to use. In my perfect world, the conservative SCOTUS will do something good by ruling the Espionage Act unconstitutional, and Snowden and Assange will be free. Yeah, I don't know if I definitely think, hopefully we can free Snowden and Assange. I don't know if the conservatives would like that because, it goes against their military-industrial complex, but I think the party is getting more the GOP is getting more libertarian, so you never know. That's my thoughts. Yeah, I agree. They're pretty much going after Trump for the political equivalent of jaywalking. All the politicians do it, but they're only going after him for it. It's like they're not going after him they're going after him for really what are victimless crimes, not things they should be going after him, like, nearly getting us into war with Iran, or the COVID regime, or banning bump stocks, or all his executive overreach, or just letting the elected bureaucrats and military-industrial complex continue to run the country, et cetera, et cetera. They're not going after him what they should be going after him for. That's my big problem with his persecution, and that's it's only going to help his persecution complex, and probably will only help make more people see that he's being persecuted and support him, because people these days on social media, they want to be seen as being persecuted, I would say, because they want to be seen as a victim. We see that's usually associated with left, the victim mentality, but I think you see it a lot with Trump as well, and I think these indictments are a good example as to why. The U.S. Navy, NATO, and NASA are using shady Chinese companies' encryption chips from Wired.com by Harumph. And yeah, that's the thing is, the Chinese technology is becoming increasingly prevalent now. Even the U.S. Government is using it to some extent. So that's why I really fear China probably more than any other country in the world right now. But looks like the U.S. is slowly becoming China anyway. So I guess that's not too much of a problem, in the long term. The new right isn't so new. Left-wing totalitarianism and right-wing authoritarianism are not only options. From Reason.com by Harumph. I'd agree with that, but the thing is that, the thing is that, that those are usually options people choose, sadly. And sadly, we have to be people under democracy. You have to view them as legitimate. And that's why I'm personally more against democracy, because no other people shouldn't be making choices for other people if they don't consent to it. Texas will require parental consent for kids to use social media, from arstechnica.com by Harumph. And I say it's a good intentions, bad results law. I think it's something I personally would agree with, but it's not the government's job to enforce. House Republicans introduced their own student loan debt plan, from NBCDFW.com by Harumph. I personally don't care for student loans, but I think, the people is, yeah, I think it's, so the plan seems to be get the government out of student loans. I think that is a good long-term option, but I think, the idea of student loans is that, it's inherent, I don't think you should be taking out loans if you don't feel you can't pay them back. So that's why I regret taking out student loan, and I wish I probably shouldn't have done college in hindsight, because he was mostly just pushing narratives at me, especially as a non-STEM or medical major. What the Censors Want, from nymag.com, from the let's see. Let's see. Yeah, I like the top comment by Zealous Deal, Teach from 4v1. The same associate sought to ban Huck Finn of Mice Mental Mockingbird EGC for having no words. Self-critical fault and ensures you not to grapple with various cultural issues except in the ways they explicitly want them to, not to. Not the thing of, I agree with that. The thing of school is that people are naturally just want to push narratives on you, and it's critical thinking really isn't encouraged by either the left or the right. That's why they both need the control of the schools so much, because they want to determine what everyone thinks, and that's why I think we need to just emphasize school choice, or maybe even just emphasize, getting rid of the schools, because I think education in the long run is really just a cause for, people overthink things, and they get too caught up in what they in how smart they are and how educated they are. So that's why I think, maybe I think in the long run we have to uneducate ourselves and really could get out of the classroom and get more into the community, I would say. Happy Pride Month from Raytheon Technologies by LP Minnesota. And it's a atomic bomb, but it's rainbow colored. It's a meme, and I said, I'm sure some people might complain about being the old pride flag as well, not having the transgender flag in there, or the black colors, or the intersex people. So this is what we call the military industrial complex and the other large corporations are using IDPOL to make themselves look good, and it's working, because what happened to Occupy Wall Street and all of the big corporations suck. We are the 99%. What happened to that? What happened to it is they started pushing identity politics, and now people don't really remember that at all. Except for some people. Some people do. Like there are some good people on the left. They're openly Marxist, but at least they're against identity politics. The thing is, though, I don't think it's going away anytime soon, especially with how the media, the government, and the private corporations are pushing it. So that's a sad thing. College Board says it won't alter AP courses to comply with Florida's laws, from thehill.com. I said good. I always support nullification if the NAP isn't being violated. I don't think people should comply with laws they view to be unjust. That's my thoughts there. As long as the NAP isn't being violated. So, if you consider, the murdering to be, the law against murder to be unjust, I don't think you should go out and murder people if it's not consensual. That's my thoughts there. From dream to nightmare, Siler City home in disrepair despite inspections approvals, from ChathamNewsRecord.com by Ninja Lover. That's looks interesting. It just goes to show you that zoning despite the government saying, "Oh, everything's gonna work," and when we give it approval, it just goes to show you that the government just can't approve anything, and it's gonna be done. Yes, it's time for affirmative action 10 finally from heritage.org by Ruin My Circle Jerk. And let's see. Yeah, I'd agree that yeah, I think it's time to end affirmative action, but I think if colleges want to practice affirmative action, they should be able to if they're private, but not if they're public. I think private enterprise should be able to do it at once, but I think, I've been personally against the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It sounds bad, but I think if people want to discriminate based on race or gender, etc., they should be able to, but I'm personally not going to support any organization that does, even if they do it the good way, the supposed good way, and allow more if it's benefiting and it's used to benefit BIPOC or LGBTQ, etc., etc. We shouldn't. I don't think we should have protected classes, and I think that is something that I'm very much against. Climate activist faces 10 years in jail for a fake letter canceling an oil industry conference from CNN.com. I personally think that's perfectly fine. I think you should be able to impersonate anyone you want and do whatever you want. I personally think free speech is what we should have free speech all the time for everything. And yeah. Yeah, that's why I was against Alex Jones being charged with bullying for saying Sandy Hook was fake. People reacted to that by kind of being mean to the Sandy Hook parents, but that's kind of like people are mean. We have to support free speech as long as the act isn't being violated. TIO Garfield the Cat is Libertarian from Bro Comics, and I posted that. And that was the Garfield shirt from November 17th, 2004. We have a great show. This Garfield's watching TV. Says we have a great show. We know you'll enjoy it. And Garfield turns off TV. Says nobody tells me what to do. That's why I like Garfield. He's like a lot like a lot of Americans. Don't try on me. Nobody tells me what to do. I make my own rules. That's why I like libertarianism. You make your own rules. You forge your own path. You don't want to just repeat whatever the media tells you. You say I'm thinking for myself and I'm saying what I want to say. And maybe it agrees sometimes with some media and sometimes it agrees with some other media, but I'm saying what I want to say. I said, he might as well seek the LP nomination in 2024 on a platform of free lasagna, abolishing Mondays, and sending normal to Abu Dhabi once and for all. Yeah, I think that would be good. I think maybe Garfield the cat could be our next president. We've had a human president Garfield. Why not a cat president Garfield at this point? Even if he's fictional, Why does the president have to be non-fictional? I don't know, Why does the president have to be human? Why does the president have to be anything, Why do we have to have a president? It's just, yeah. My thoughts there. The Indicator from Planet Money, how any affirmative action changed California from NPR.com, or NPR.org, sorry. And, yeah, I think that's good to and ending affirmative action is good, as I was talking about with the other post by Ruin My Circle Jerk. I think we need to not discriminate on the basis of race or any other things, but if people want to, I think they should be able to. Surveying the Gamers, research article illustrates how video games are exploited for surveillance and user profiling from papers.ssrn.com by Wedling Dan. And, yeah, I think pretty much everything is exploited for surveillance and user profiling at this point, I would say. COVID-19's patient zero may have been Wuhan lab scientists report finds from Reason.com by her and yeah. Of course, this is only 55% update, kind of going to this narrative of the subreddit about how COVID came from the wet market, but I think people should be able to believe where COVID came wherever they believed it to have come from, and if people want to think it came from a wet market, these people too. But I think people should be able to say, oh, the lab leak was real, and people were censored over that, and sadly they're probably still going to get censored over things that are true because it disagrees with the narrative enough. People don't care what's true or no, it's not. Don't let context get in the way of a good narrative. I say so. It doesn't really matter what's true or not anymore. It matters what goes with narrative enough. That's what social media really is. It doesn't really matter what's true or not anymore. We live in the post-truth era. We live in the narrative era, where the narrative matters much more than what's true or not. Activists call BS on FBI Section 702 abuse band-aid, demand major reforms through surveillance power from TechDirt.com by Harumph. I think that's good. I think we need to get rid of the FBI personally. So I think, anytime people call the FBI on its bullshit, they should be able to. Classy as ever, making sure nobody will ever vote Libertarian from Clorox. And it's the LPNH tweeting, Pearl Harbor was provoked, 9/11 was provoked, the Russian-Ukraine war was provoked, there are many more. Whatever wars and interventions were provoked by the U.S. federal government, add in the comments. I agree with that, the thing is, no one's voting Libertarian anyway, I would say, so, might as well try and speak the truth as much as possible. I agree with that. When Ellsberg knowingly risked life in prison to show his fellow citizens that the U.S. government was lying about the war in Vietnam, top Nixon officials, including Kissinger and Ehrlichman, smeared him as a criminal agent, same tactic for decades. And of course, that's Daniel Ellsberg just died, he leaked the Pentagon Papers, and I think, they tried to smear him as a criminal agent, now they try to smear anyone who questions their narratives as a criminal agent, so, the tactics really haven't changed. The situation has changed a little, but the tactics don't change. Daniel Ellsberg, who leaked the Pentagon Papers, is dead at 92, deeply disturbed by the accounting of American deceit in Vietnam. He approached the New York Times. The disclosure that followed Rock Nation from nytimes.org by Harumph. That's another Ellsberg post. And since went against the U.S. security state, so I'm sure the suburb would hate him if the TV told them to. The TV says, "Oh, he's bad." People don't think to themselves; they say whatever their media tells them to think. And I think that's important when it comes to it's. To social media, it's all groupthink, and it's all that's why I don't like social media. It's too groupthink. We need to emphasize individual think over groupthink. The FBI groomed a 16-year-old with brain development issues to be a terrorist from Intercept.com. I posted that, and I said it's always best to assume that anyone who posts violent rhetoric and tries to rile up your emotions is a Fed. In my opinion, that's my fault there. The FBI always want to get more violence so it can get more power, and it's pretty much all the op agencies. U.S. citizen in Ukraine faces 13 years in prison for supporting Russian actions and criticizing Zelensky from Rebel News, and I posted that. And I said, no, what did I say? I said, just heard from this from Ropi Nevada, fuck Russia, but as this shows, Ukraine is an authoritarian hell as well. It'll be fair, pretty much every country is to varying degrees at this point. Ninja Lover said, in the middle of an invasion, you're not going to be allowed to produce pro-invader propaganda, kind of common sense. And I said, President Lincoln said, I'm just going to arrest anyone who criticizes my handling of the Civil War. And Yusuf Lover would say, good radio, Mr. Lincoln, warfare, terrorism, totally justified. We shouldn't be justifying authoritarianism like Ninja Lover here because it's a war. That's how we get FDR putting all the Japanese Americans in internment camps because they might be fifth column. That's the thing. You can't, even if people are fifth column, they should be able to express themselves as long as they're not violating the NAP. That's my thoughts there, If people in World War II America wanted to support the Nazis or the Imperial Japanese, I think they should have been able to. They should be able to. And my thoughts still haven't changed. If people want to support the Russians openly, they should be able to. And I don't really care who the people support because I think people should support who they want to as long as they aren't hurting anyone else. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez jumps into presidential race by Harumph. And, I would, I think he's good. He's really into crypto, and he sometimes does boost the Republican Party, so probably my preferred choice right now. Probably slightly being out Ramaswamy, but we'll see how he goes. I don't know if he'll get very far, especially with Trump and DeSantis taking up a lot of the press. And everyone else trying to find that footing for third right now. Fox News producer fired after on-screen message calling President Biden a wannabe dictator from WFAA.com by Harumph. And I said private corporation, the UA wants, but didn't note that PBS did use this graphic got fired anyone. And that was PBS had a link under Donald Trump's speech. It said experts warn that inflammatory rhetoric from elected officials for people in power can prompt individual actors to commit acts of violence. So that's the thing is Fox News is apparently so bad, but they're firing people who put up questionable graphics, but PBS isn't. So just makes you think, each of them has a narrative, but sadly you can't call one of them out on it because they have the narrative on their side. Abortion providers in North Carolina file federal lawsuit challenging state's new restrictions. NBC from WNBCDFW.com by Harumph. That's good. I think people should be able to stand up. I'm personally more on the pro-choice side of the argument, but I think people should be able to stand up for their position, and I would support the abortion providers in this instance because people should always stand for their position. I think as long as they're not violating NAP. You have the argument that abortion could be considered a NAP violation, but I think people should be viewing the NAP how they want to, especially when it's on topic as debated as abortion is currently. A federal judge has blocked much of Indiana's ban on gender-affirming care for minors. That's from another one from NPR.org. And yeah, I personally am more on the against gender-affirming care side because I think it's mostly just surgeries and hormones for kids. But if people want to justify it, same for abortion. I'm more on the left side of the abortion argument, but more on the right side of the gender-affirming care argument. People will justify what they justify. As long if you don't think it's an ad violation, by all means, I think you should justify it. But I personally wouldn't justify it. So that's my thoughts there. Eugenics is not incompatible with the principles of personal freedom by Beige Forever, and that's yeah. They say we revere the ideal of rights of an individual as being superior to the rights of the state. Procreation isn't a right; it's a bodily function. It happens 3 times per lifetime on average. Why do individuals procreate? Blind biological drive. Preventing low-quality offspring doesn't reflect the principle of no force or fraud. One cannot experience or exercise force. Fraud is one if one is never born. I said, if you want to consider eugenics to be a libertarian idea, I think you should be able to do. But with that being said, I would consider it to be as libertarian as I consider fascism, communism, socialism to be libertarian. Not at all. What people do with their own bodies is their choice, and if they want to have children, even if they don't want to have the resources, they don't have the resources to do so, and the children will very likely end up being delinquents, they should be able to. We shouldn't be justifying forced sterilization of people like the U.S. government. The Link case was never overturned, by the way, and the Link case linked to was Buck v. Bell, the sterilization of people who the government deemed to be disabled. That's still on the books. They can still sterilize you if they deem you to be disabled, and that's something I think, we shouldn't be justifying. So I think we're gonna wrap it up there, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.